Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show.
Hey, morning, guys.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. And is that Mike Garrison? Got it. It is Garrison.
It's Mike's voice.
It's Mike's voice. You just told me you weren't going to be on the call.
Well, it's also Mike's hip hop.
Yeah, I got it. Nice. So what's new and exciting this morning, guys?
Well, Mike's the one who's been fishing, so he's got all the good stories.
He does. He does have the good stuff.
The one that got away this morning. Right?
Yeah, the big one that got away. Let's hear all about it.
There's no big ones in that creek. A big one in that creek is 10 inches. So, but it was fun. It was nice. I got my RMD, my required minimum dose of peace.
Nice. It's good to have something that you, whatever it is, a run in the morning or whatever, fishing, something you can do to reset, right?
Yeah, it's actually become one of my most critical rituals. I think more about life and my business on the way to and from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic of discussion. How do you how and when do you innovate? Right? What are those periods of time that allow you to be innovative? And is it reading? Is it listening to music? Is it, in Mike's case, fishing? What is that thing that spurs innovation in your practice or in your life?
And do you schedule it or not?
Yeah. What do you think, Joe?
I go to mass. I find mass, Catholic mass, very centering, kind of decompress, half an hour. 6:30 in the morning, I'm out. Oftentimes I bring my pencil and paper and get some good ideas. Just that's where I find my
Nice.
innovation idea.
Awesome.
But I do believe that there is not enough attention paid to this task, and especially in leadership roles. I don't always grinding on the wheel is not.
Yeah, we're on the treadmill running all the time, right? And so we never take the time to stop and say, "Hey, should I have adjusted the treadmill? Maybe today I should have ridden the bike instead of running the treadmill," right? We don't think about that stuff. We just jump on the treadmill and start running, right? And we do that all day, for sure. David, where do you get your innovation ideas? What activities help you flush out those big ideas?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will tell you, I'm still figuring out the best one to do that, the
Yeah.
best way to do that. I do enjoy, though, going for an evening walk. Really good, kind of at the end of the day. Something my wife and I enjoy doing together. We have a couple dogs, and so we'll walk, and that's a good time to kind of decompress. I also do enjoy trying to get a workout in, which is kind of a way to get out all that built up pressure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but I don't have a currently I don't have like a go-to, like Mike's got the fishing or some other thing. I haven't got that figured out yet.
Yeah, and I think there's two components there, right, David? One is a component, and I agree with this, by the way, wholeheartedly. One is a component of stress relief,
Yeah.
which may or may not be the thing that actually allows us to do the innovation. Those may be together, they may be separate, right? They're
Yeah.
two distinct things, right? And so, like, I work out 4 times a week with a friend, and he comes over to my house and he rides a bike, and I walk on the run or walk on the
Yeah.
treadmill or whatever I do. We have a lot of discussion and we do a lot of innovation during that, and there's stress relief during it because we're interacting and just talk. This is a guy I've known since preschool, literally. We graduated from not that you can graduate from preschool. Well, actually,
Well,
my
you
mother
did, and that
celebrated
was a good
me
thing. I'm glad you
graduating.
did. Yeah, but no,
She was worried I was going to get stuck in
yeah,
preschool.
yeah,
But you know, we innovate because we know each other so deeply and have such interesting discussions about weird things that it actually brings up innovative ideas, right? We start talking about something, we're like, why does this happen? And then we all of a sudden we're talking about a solution for it, right? To me, that's innovation. We're tearing something apart, pulling it apart and then putting it together in a different order. That's that innovation component. Now, my wife and I might go for a walk with the dog and we might have a great discussion, and that's really relaxing and stress relieving. But we might not innovate on that whole walk, right? It might not be any new discussion or new idea. It might just be talk about what happened during the day. It might just be, you know, um, you know, talk about the color of the leaves are changing, right? And all that is good, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I think in order, at least in my humble opinion, right, it's impossible. I shouldn't say it's impossible. It's difficult to innovate and think if you've just got a lot of built up stress, and that's
Uh,
what we happen.
yeah.
There was a time in my life, right, where you just you're under pressure all day long, and then you go to bed and you don't sleep well, and you get up and you repeat that cycle. And we all have to deal with it's only a matter of where you're at on the scale. Life is full of problems and stress, and you have to be able to figure out how to deal with that effectively. And of course, for a lot of people, that's they make some bad choices in terms of how to deal with that, right?
Oh, for sure.
Alcohol, it's why people become alcoholics. It's you got to figure out how to deal with stress. And so I think making healthy choices to deal first with the stress, and then being able to think clearly about you know um, working. I guess we could put it this way: working on your life instead of in your life. Just like for a business owner, which I've been most of my life, instead of working in the business, you got to step back out and work on the
Well,
business.
this is the point I was going to make, David, right? We're talking about our businesses, but we're really talking about what we should be doing to help our business owners, right? And our business owners are on that treadmill every single day, right? We all know it because we're business owners, David, but you're commenting on your past life as running on that treadmill, right? And how do we if we can't get off the treadmill and innovate, and think about innovative things, how are we going to help our clients with innovation and encourage them, right? Some of it is we got to eat our own dog food, right? Some of it is
Hey,
also,
Eric.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric.
Yes,
I,
Mike.
I think it's less about the word innovation, right? Because there's inspiration, innovation, renovation,
Yeah.
and it's more about getting into a more strategic point of view, a detached. So Jocko Willing talked about it
Yeah.
a lot in leadership, of being able to step back and see a broader picture.
Yes.
That's really what fishing does for me, and it's a practice. Like
Yes.
I what people don't understand is you have to build skill, and innovation is difficult as a skill, but being strategic and detached is not. You can I think that's a more achievable way of describing it. And I think it's absolutely critical. I love everything you're saying. I would just replace that from having been coaching for so long, I would replace innovation, because sometimes people are going to hear you have to think of something brand new, when a lot of what comes across as incredibly valuable for me is being able to discern what's actually important, what's actually essential. It's not something new. It's being able to actually, see it and then execute. So I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, no. And I was using, Mike, I love the point. I agree with what you just said. I was using the word innovation because it's the eighth value in the middle dimension, right, of our 24 values, right? It's the eighth value, the crazy eight in the growth part of our OKRs, right? And so I was only using that word as a placeholder, and it's great to clarify it. I meant it in its broadest sense, any innovation, and a new idea, a new way to look at something, any innovation. But you're right, Mike. Sometimes you got to say a different word, strategic view. I don't care what we call it. You got to be able to step back and get out of the day-to-day weeds and see something in a different light, right? Jeff, you're nodding your head a lot. What are your thoughts?
My first thought is I'm so glad I came this morning. I'm always glad. This is a great conversation, very timely. So now I'm thinking a little bit about what David said, and Joe. Everybody has said something along these lines, but I start my day every morning with a devotional and/or a Bible reading with my wife, and that grounds us. It centers us. It reminds us, as if we need to be reminded, that there's a bigger presence out there than us. My wife was a cheerleader before I met her. We've been together 35 years, married for 34 plus. And she is the source of a lot of my energy every day when I'm looking for an idea or to bounce something off her. She knew me when I was a 20 something in the catalog industry and I was her company's client. So she knows a different side of me. But I'll be honest, one of the biggest things to me has been my framing, and my wife gets a lot of credit for this, of I get to do this. I get to help companies. I look in their eyes. I hear their pain, their concern. I'm dealing with a situation now with 50% owners. One wants out badly, but he can't get out from the trap and spend enough time to have conversation. And if he doesn't write that course, he'll be there 3 years from now and even more miserable. Yeah. So the discernment, that was a great word. I love that word. This is just a great conversation. I couldn't be more energized. That's why I'm nodding back and forth and
got it.
Doing this.
Teresa, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I will put in the chat room a few books that I was classically trained on for innovation, but I appreciate the diversity of the word and the way that Mike called it out a little bit being different. So there's a book called The Human Operating System. And that really helped teams build culture and build innovation. And it really talked about what everybody's talking about. Don't be afraid to show up and bring what helps you relieve your stress and or be more innovative in your business. So mine are pretty simple. They used to be grandiose things, but I've really simplified life. And so it's my backyard is absolutely my serene zen place to go. I don't fish, I don't hunt, I just enjoy my backyard. So in my backyard, I've created a garden. We have a swimming pool, we have a basketball court, we have a pickleball court, we have a putting green with 4 holes, cornhole, finishing up a barbecue. But it's just home is where the heart is for me. And so my backyard is my absolute innovative space and privacy.
Teresa, that's far more than a backyard. My God.
Yeah.
You never knew, Mike, did you? Now you
need
know.
to see some pictures.
Yeah, right. And you could take a stick, hang a string down with a hook on it, put it in your swimming pool, and pretend to be Mike.
I could. Yeah. He's a classic. There's only one Mike. Often imitated, never duplicated is Mike. Well,
So
Yeah,
it's
be better than that.
yeah, be better than that. Yeah, think higher. One of the things that's really been interesting to me over the last several days, and Jeff, I appreciate your comments. My start of my day is very similar, and my wife and I have been married for 33 years this year. Also, known each other for 34. But we were commenting on the fact that my wife would love silence. At the end of the day, she wants to sit and in a room with just quiet, or sit outside and just listen to the noise of, and I want music. I like the feel of music. When I have music on in the background, my mind goes into a different place, and I can I can think clearer. I can concentrate more. When I'm working on something at my desk, also, if I have music on, I can go deeper. I can, and so just finding those little things that um help you get into that mindset where you can think about something differently, right? um just curious, that was my curiosity, is what do other people do to get to, how do you, I, David, I loved your point that we all need to get out of the stress first, right? If we don't eliminate the stress, our mind never gets to that point. So one of the things is getting that stress level down and really getting into a different place, right? But then there's that point where okay, the stress is gone. Can I move into that point where my mind starts moving again on creative or positive things, discernment, as Mike said, or other words, whatever you want to use. I just was using the word innovation as a placeholder for a broader set of things, right? How do you, what is the thing that transitions you into that? I don't know about you guys, but my mind is racing all the time.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I would jump in and say, and you're right, and then again, I'll double down on that. Experientially, I've made the worst decisions in my life in the moments where I felt stressed.
Yeah.
You just don't make good decisions when you're feeling pressure and stress. So I've learned experientially, if I can't pull back and find some calm, I'm not going to make a good decision. It's sort of like I've never made a good response when I'm upset. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never written a good email from a place of being, emotionally unstable. And I am not afraid to say anything, and that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing when you're, emotional.
Yeah.
I've learned to kind of put some safeguards in my own life. But I guess in a practical way, what I hear you asking, Eric, and this is just something that I do, and I actually did it yesterday, is really cultivating that attitude of gratitude. And
Yeah.
there's that stress and you need to think clearly, I think one of the best things that I've found to do is just sit down and write out the things I have to be thankful for. I think
Yeah.
that's a good place to start. If you can just sort of back out and say, wow, these are the things that I'm so thankful for. It sort of helps clear the mind a little bit, and you get a little broader perspective. Like, oh, okay, maybe the sky isn't falling, and these little things that seem to be so important aren't so important. So I think really again, repeating myself is to always be cultivating that attitude of gratitude and just listing out with a pen and paper, hey, these are the things that I'm really thankful for.
Yeah. Nice.
I posted in the chat some clarity break questions that we promote on EOS, and one of them was what would I do if I wasn't afraid? Because we often ride with the brakes on throughout of fear. And then what are my natural skills, abilities, and then what unknown questions do I have that I need to answer about what I want the most, right? So oftentimes fear drives, gets in the way of growth, and then we end up just locking up, so this, it's great to be able to be in a position with your clients too, that be able to kind of coach them into getting the alpha beta state. Um, I know one guy said, I don't make a decision until I shower, take a shower, and then, so he does that on morning. So, gives it 24 hours to ruminate.
Yeah.
I've had a couple clients recently of just not letting go and kind of reverting back to times where they decided that they don't want to sell the business. And so I'm having some recoil. And challenging, trying to have those hard conversations, and remind them what they said they wanted, about 3 or 4 months ago, and it's a long pathway, but there's that ego piece of it, the fear. What are those things that get the owner to kind of recoil back away from the plan that we structured? And you know, I have an affectionate term. They're little Neros. If you remember, Caesar was, Rome was burning, and he was sitting there playing a violin and playing, just worrying about the little stuff. And meanwhile, the place is just burning down. And he was supposedly the one that lit the fire. So when you don't do the clarity breaks, or when you don't have that time away, then you tend to kind of go down this negative pathway, and then then the behaviors come back that you really don't like. And so there's some real in certainly ourselves, but carrying that forward to our clients, and just that coaching that needs to occur is really, really important, because that they get in a negative loop and cycle, and because they haven't been able to get the clarity breaks, they tend to go backwards, in my experience. So
Joe, you're hitting on exactly where my mind was going. We meet our clients all the time, and they're on the treadmill running hard and can't figure out how to get off the treadmill, right? And if we can't identify how we do it, if we don't have some ideas of how we get our clarity and and pause and get out of the weeds, are we going to be as effective at helping our clients do the same, right? And being thoughtful about that and being focused on it. And we need to come to the table clear-headed and being ready to help them,
Well,
and maybe even having suggestions.
back to what you said, Eric, and it's nice to see everybody now, as opposed to when I was driving on the highway trying not to die. Like I I just hired my own consultant to help me with stuff, right? So one of the things I think is really important is are we replicating the behaviors that we are eschewing, like that we're saying that we're about?
Are we eating our own dog food? Yeah, right.
Right. Well, but just to do it, like, so I have no more insight than anyone else on this Zoom. I was going to say call. I'm just old, and what I've noticed is that if I don't have different types of clarity, so like Jeff and Eric, you know, that morning Bible verse, that morning experience is huge, and that's one source of clarity and refreshment. Then there's the weekly, which is why I fly fish during the week, once a week on average. And it's less about how much I'm actually fishing, and it's more about the drive to and from and what happens on that drive. And over the last 3 years, I have developed this skill
at first unintentionally, right? Just because I made space and I knew I needed to make space. Now, the next step is, are we actually doing what I think that we should be recommending for our CEO business owner clients, which is having them detach from electronics, detach from the dopamine? Are we modeling? So, like, I have not, okay, so I'm raising my hand. I have not detached for more than a half day in years. Now I'm going to schedule my own little mental sabbatical to write with pen and paper. No electronics. Like, and I guess what I'm saying, Eric, just to double down on eating our own dog food, we I find that in my life, I'm not putting this on anybody else, because I know at least one person here who is hiring and is committed to a next level kind of performance. Um, but like, are we committed to scheduling our leadership for our clients in our own lives? Because that's the secret. You're either a consultant or a business owner.
Yep. Great points, Mike. Other thoughts?
I just put in the chat room, the calendar to block the time, since we always live by our phones, our calendars, or watches. That was classically trained in a Fortune 5 company. So I just really support that, and been getting better at it myself with 3 calendars. And getting rid of calendars that I don't need, but I just been crosswalking those things in the schedule and being relentless with that time. And this weekend, I was really proud that I took my husband on Sunday and we did a whole 8 hours of outdoor work and events with no phones, totally detached. He did ask for a little music to be played, so I feel you there, Eric, but it was a full day of just being fully detached, which I usually can't get him to detach from that. So it was a really good full day, full Sunday.
Yeah, and when you see that, activity, when you see the effect of that, now we start to understand what our clients are feeling and what they need, right? That was really the underlying point I was making is, are we looking at ourselves and being honest about where we're struggling and where our stress is, David, and where our lack of quiet time is, and then we're not able to, we're encouraging them to do it, but we can't really tell them how to do it because we don't do it ourselves.
There's something that Joe's got a drawing his book.
This happens to be one size. I've got a couple different sizes, but this is just a nice little drawing pad, kind of an idea. This was a meeting with a client, where they are now, where they're going to be, things you can come back to. It's just nice to have kind of a free flow, right, which way, but free flow of ideas and not really being restricted by the 8.5, 11. Been doing it for a while. This is a meeting with an engineer or accounting firm. Why would they want to, white label Ed and I practice? And it's sort of a different way to look at things, a different way to present it, but forces you to be not very detailed, which is important because oftentimes we get weeded out. But then if you could draw with a Sharpie, then it tends to kind of get to concise, to the point from a communication standpoint. Leave the details later, but we're just trying to sell big pictures. And in the same process, get yourself a white blank space, and oftentimes 8.5 by 11, I think my mind gets a little confining. So, what are those things that you're working on? Do a mind map. I'm a big mind mapper guy, so those are a great way to kind of just get things down on paper. And oftentimes it's not necessarily linear the way you're thinking, so you have to kind of give your space to be able to kind of fill in the blanks later.
I'd love to have
creative ways.
I'd love to have a detailed conversation about innovation. Like, how do we all innovate? That'd be a really interesting conversation to talk about the specifics of innovation. It's interesting though that I think in terms of quiet time and in terms of just not talking, what was on my mind when this subject came up when we first just started, I didn't even walk into the meeting with an idea in my head. But when we said, hey, what's going on? And Mike said he was fishing, I thought, we often talk about technical issues on this or software things or very things. Oftentimes what our client needs most is to get off the treadmill and see something from a different perspective. What they need most is that different perspective from us, not just a technical solution. Mike, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you 100%. Like, there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike for me, some new book and new stuff like that. And most of it's centered around humanity and who are we and what are we about, things like that. To get to a place of real understanding your clients takes scheduling, because we just don't ad hoc spend time with them, right? We schedule it. So in effect, what I'm calling us, I'm challenging us, exhorting us to do is treat ourselves like a client. Like, I've had a lot of success over the last few years, and almost all of it I can trace back to deciding that I was going to make time to fish during the day. And at the time I was making about $70,000-$80,000 as a coach, which is not bad. But I was part-time, I was terribly depressed. The book had just come out. I had just found SEPA. And what happened is I got an opportunity to go fly fishing. I took it. It was during the day. And the reason it was during the workday was because the client that I went with is too busy at night and on the weekends because he's got twin daughters that are 15 in the Olympic soccer program. Right.
Yep.
And he's like, we just can't do something on the weekends. I'm too busy. And I said, well, I'm too busy too. I've got a adult with special needs. I can't do it. And the feeling, so like that's the root. And like, it's so much more important than eating our own dog food. It's actually embracing our mortality.
Yeah.
It's embracing our value as a human being. And you can ascribe that however you want. For me, it's Jesus Christ, right? And then asking yourself, how am I living? Because fundamentally, I don't run across many clients that don't have at least an aspiration to a deeper meaning, and I think that when I think about my favorite clients, they all are people that have deep values, and they're looking to thread the eye of the needle, whether they're a believer in Christ or not. They're looking to somehow not worship money, but be able to acquire resources and assets that they can steward effectively. If we don't take the steps to be intimate with ourselves, to to believe that we are worth that time ourselves, we end up like I was a long time ago, empty and unable to help anymore. And does that really help our clients?
Yeah. Does it help our clients if we show up as a technical automaton?
Yeah, it's an empty suit.
Right. Or do we invest in our clients and get to know them and have a relationship where we can, what do they really want out of us? Where is the higher order on helping them? What's the highest order of what we can do for them? Is it fixing some technical thing for them, or is it helping them in life really understand their value and really go free them from the constraints of Joe, your virtual 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, right? Free them from that and help them realize they can be more. I'm not saying we don't do the technical things we do for them. That's a good part of what we all bring. I'm just saying, I think we often, as technicians, we often skip the people part.
Yeah. And like practically, oh, sorry, Jeff, you're going to say, go, Jeff.
I was going to say, yeah, the technical piece is table stakes, but you know, being calm and being seasoned. I had a client tell me one of the best compliments they ever got and said, "You've done this before, haven't you?" And all of a sudden it leveled it out and we moved forward and got her business sold. But the mere fact that she sensed calmness in the storm, her storm, was awesome. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Jeff, like the greatest compliment I ever got was from a client who was going through some pretty, like, really bad stuff. And it was interesting in the middle of the conversation, he was like, the only reason I'm telling you all this stuff is like, I absolutely believe there's nothing I can tell you that will eliminate your ability to think clearly, given everything that's happened to you. And I just looked at him and I was like, wow, thank you. That was never the goal. That was never the goal. And so, like, here's the thing, right? If you guys would forgive me just for a second, I want to tell you about the consultant I hired and why, and then encourage you to think a little outside the box. So I've hired lots of coaches. I've worked with lots of different consultants, but where I'm taking my business, where I'm trying to match strategic intent with strategic capacity, right? Is is demanding, and I've done it before. So I've done an international franchise, certified dozens, hundreds of people. But I was like, you know what? I've got blind spots, right? I know Joe would agree, but I've got blind spots, right? We all do. And I went outside of my normal consulting world to a friend of mine was a former youth pastor and is now the North America director of Sun Life, which is a Christian disciple making ministry. And I support him. My wife and I support him. And I had an epiphany that disciple making is the execution strategy for almost everything that really counts. So I called him up because he's not a consultant, right? And I said, "Hey, man, I wanted to congratulate you on your new consulting client." And David, you should have seen his face. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "It's me." I said, I said, "I've already sent you," because he's got a donation page. I already sent you the donations to pay for the consulting. And it has been amazing. So like, I don't know if you've got a Tom Maxwell, and he's mine. I don't know if you've got a Tom Maxwell in your life, but like, look for that outside perspective, maybe a retired military person, but you don't necessarily have to have a growth drive consultant, but look for somebody who's grounded in something that is um, got a bigger perspective. I just want to encourage you to look outside,
Wisdom. Yep.
that's what he's supposed to bring.
Yep. For sure. David, you look like you were going to add something to that comment.
No, I was just listening. I didn't necessarily have anything to add to that. I agree with what Mike was saying for sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was, I had a conversation with an accounting firm the other day, and I was reflecting back on my days of running a contracting business in which we were basically the shovels in the field for engineering firms, and environmental was our focus. And so we would partner up with these guys. They would get a project and then have us come up and try to help out, think about costs involved with doing the project, whatnot. So we usually get a heads up. They would have to bring a couple bidders in and whatnot. But the whole idea was, could we create little disciples? So when one of the engineering firm members or project manager says, "Hey, Joe, I'm leaving somewhere," and I'm usually like, "Oh, that's too bad. Where are you going?" Because I knew full well that seed planted one was going to germinate in another one, right? And I didn't have enough boots on the ground to talk to all the manufacturers, all the people with the spills or whatever, but the engineering firms did. And much like the accounting firms, CPAs, they have these relations with our target customers. How do we see them as disciples? And if they leave one accounting firm to another, I got a lunch this afternoon with the guy that's moved on into a new accounting firm. And if they could take that message with them as a disciple of your practice, it's all the better, because then you can germinate kind of naturally using a lot of Mike's thoughts in the book, Can I Borrow Your Car? But that, you think about that, creating disciples, Michael. I mean, it just sort of, I'm reflected on a conversation how I adjusted yesterday, because that was a very effective tool in growing my contracting business back in the 90s. And it was a great way to also instill that kind of practice among other
Well, Joe,
people that work there.
Joe, if you think about it, you ready? We're in the age of the machine. You can call the machine whatever you want, but we're in the age of the machine, right? And by the way, raise your hands. Who's coming to the summit? Let me see. All right, good. So Jeff, this is your one chance. Uh, there are two things in my system, and I have not shared this in public before, right? So in Can I Borrow Your Car, the highest form of action on the referral system, Joe, you're going to love this, is the evangelist. That's the person that refers to you without fear of risk. They are referring you because they know you, because they love you, they believe in you. And that is the highest form of the personal referral process, right? You go
Right.
macro, micro, and then you go to evangelist. You're not going to have a lot of evangelists, and evangelists don't scale. This is the same thing when you look at how Christ spread the gospel. He didn't do it through evangelists. He did it through disciples that make disciples. So on the execution side of my Can I Borrow Your Car system, which I'm rolling out some when we're in person in a couple weeks, the disciple making process is how you scale human relationship, right? It's how we beat the machine for those of us that want to, right? And Joe, to your point, like when you understand disciple making, particularly within the greatest example ever of it as a success, man, everything opens up. You realize that there's no one book or one system. There's actually one book and one system.
Right. Well, I'll give you a good example. We've referred you into an accounting firm we're working with. Ed is going to try to get their marketing guy to come over and attend the conference. And then he's looking at bringing in you, or that's what I'm thinking. To scale this puppy, you need to kind of get disciples, and then we could all be disciples of this methodology, and then train. It's I talked to you 6 months ago, but we got to figure out how to train this thing, because we could spin this thing up and get
It
it.
starts January 1st. Already
Is that what it's okay? Yeah. But we can get this thing going, and it benefits us. We're building a relationship. We're teaching new ways to our COIs. What's the biggest thing for those guys is to get, they've got thousands of clients, and yet they don't touch them on a regular basis in a meaningful way to kind of like bring new ideas. They're kind of like, they're the guys with that tax code book in the corner, and the nerdy guys, and say, well, I'm just going to give that. And I'll tell you, as a business owner, it was next to a tooth extraction to go in, even though I know we made good money, but I just hated give away. Right. So this is like once a year conversation, maybe twice a year, but all too often they could expand what they're talking about if they had some other tools. So by reaching out and teaching them this, at the same time applying this system to our system, it's really cool, holistic way of looking at it. And so I consider myself a disciple of Mike. And we haven't I haven't figured out my tattoo yet, but I'm still working on it, Mike. But the thing about it is how do we get our COIs to think differently about developing their business, and what challenge they have. A managing partner in an accounting firm has a huge problem is these guys don't want to, or feel like that's not their responsibility to go out and get new business. And is it net new business or is it extension onto the existing client base? And the advisory practice work, those firms that are doing that are going to be a perfect opportunity for us to get in front of them and allow them to use us as a tool to kind of pot stir. We're stirring up these different ideas. The business owners, they've been thinking about how do they grow, but we can actually contextualize that and give them some thinking way to do it. But only get in there because we've gotten in there through helping out our COIs being more effective at what they got.
Yeah, and the only way this scales
Step
is
off.
the only way any of this stuff scales is with all of you.
Yeah.
Because like I think the clear and present challenge we have is what if within our individual lanes, right? Within collaborative lanes, within Growth Drive as a community, what if we're actually really successful in the next year? Like how much actual capacity do we have? And like when I look at it, like our talent is great. But Eric and I have talked about this multiple times. I've talked about it with David, I know. Teresa, we may have talked about it. I can't remember because hey, I'm old. But like we don't have enough practitioners if this works. Like I'm going to do everything I can, and I know how to do it on the cannot borrow your car side, but I'm still trying to figure out, Eric, we're back to the same thing when we're driving in the Jeep. How the heck do we find these consultants, and how do we disciple these consultants?
Well, and Mike, you're circling right back around to where we started this conversation. Are we just thinking about our little treadmill, and are we just on our treadmill going, how do I get enough treadmill time in today so that my billing is good and that, or are we thinking about the bigger picture of how do I help more people and how do we do this? And now you're starting to think, I would argue, innovatively about what's the next level of this whole thing? Is this about Mike or Joe or Teresa, or is this about the client? And how do I help more clients? And how do we do that as a community? There's a lot of help that's needed out there. And to your point, Mike, at some point, it can't be about David or Eric or Mike. It's got to be about helping helping a broader thing, and we got to think bigger than we're thinking right now.
They need us badly.
Oh, I've never walked into a business, guys. I've never walked into a business that I didn't see things that could be helped. Right? David, you ran a business for a long time. Were there things in your business that could have been better?
Yeah, I'm not even going to answer that.
Right. It's a silly question, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. There's a lot of help that's needed out there, and some people need the help a lot more than other people need the help. Don't get me wrong. It's not that everybody needs it at the same level, but there's a lot of help that's needed out there. Right. And I love your point, Mike. Are we thinking about the bigger picture? Are we out of our own weeds and thinking about the fact that this is a lot bigger than we're thinking it is? And how do we start to address that? Right? We got to get the first part first.
Well, look at it. How many, like Joe, you've been around. I'm not saying you're older than I am because I actually don't know. Right. You don't look as old as I do. But like, so let's say there's, what would we say there's 30? Are there 30? How many full-time growth drivers are there? 20, 30, 40? So if we say there's 40, what size consulting firm is that? Right? Like, I mean, how big is McKinsey? I don't know how many people they got, right? Or Booz Allen, and I think there's just so much growth potential and talent just on this call. I think about David and how he scaled businesses and done the stuff that you've done, man, and I'm looking forward to where you're going. I love your vision. You know, I don't want to hire, I don't want to try and have more growth drivers that work for me in a consulting business. I want Ken Everbar, your pro guides, but I want to find out how can I send people to David, to Jeff, to Teresa, to Eric, to Joe for your firms so we grow. Like,
Yep.
Hey, Mike, I taken another shot at a public free facilitation and doing the growth drive Clarity One. So just to think about where we're at right now in the calendar year, just an innovation. Right now, every single client is thinking about their next year's strategic plan. So I went yesterday and had a meeting prep to see about some of the shared space. They're all $1 million plus revenue businesses that are using co-working spaces downtown in my city. They're a franchise. So if we do the pilot, and which I'm doing with the general manager of that co-working space, they didn't have anything like Growth Drive. And I'm not selling software, but I am selling software. So I don't care what people say about that, because this is the bread and butter behind it all. And they love the fact that the tables and everything that really is private equity and the private capital market, we can't escape that. And so having, like you said, we hit one of those, that's a franchise across all the states. So that's where all of us come into play. And they loved it. So they love the pilot idea in downtown Orlando, but they're in every state where everybody is here in Growth Drive. And they don't have something to offer the members of that co-working space, something similar like this, that's real and that's practical. And the best compliment I got yesterday in this 30-minute meeting was, it's very simple to do business with you. And we really liked that. So that's, I think, to your point, Mike, getting to know one another and figuring out how in our resumes or whatever it is in the top skills of the top of the funnel here. I don't want to go anywhere else, and I don't want to miss this call anymore. Any Tuesday. I love being here every Tuesday.
Yeah.
So if we can leverage it, I'm all for that. So I just use that as an example because I booked early mid-October. I booked the first 2 weeks of October. I booked the first 2 weeks of November, and I booked the first 2 weeks of December at this one location. And they have 20 businesses in there. So it's that seasonality is what I'm kind of talking about. Back to
That's
Mike's.
awesome.
How would we be able to do
I'm
this
just copying you.
accordingly? I'm sorry.
We're all showing the hearts of love.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know that. I was like, what's happening? So I just think that's to the great point. And thanks to coaching and this call, of course,
So I have an important question. David Parsons, is that your home office in the new space?
Yeah, it is actually.
Very nice. Where's the bonsai?
Well, they are very happy right now out on the in the backyard. So I haven't brought them inside. Yeah. So we just recently moved into a new home. Actually, I'll show you something that is meaningful to me. I'll show you something personal. I guess we got a few minutes left, right?
Yeah.
I actually shared this with my family, and I'll move it closer because we just moved a whole bunch of stuff from Seattle. Long story short, we've been in the Seattle area for 25, almost 26 years. We moved to Louisville. We finally got all of our stuff. We bought a new home. We love it. It's beautiful on the 11th fairway of a private country club. So, but what I had in storage is something that had hung behind my desk when I ran the med device company. And I will tell you, the private equity company that came in to buy the company, I will tell you, they thought I was strange. They really did think they didn't actually know what to do with me because I had all these scriptures hanging from my wall and I was all about the people. I really think they thought that I was just this sort of simpleton, and if and I had built a very transferable business, and they looked at me and they actually didn't even really want me. They're like, you're sort of this weird Christian guy that has scripture hanging on your wall, and we're going to bring in the MBA experts who really know lean manufacturing, and we're going to do great things with your business. And they offered me a lot of money.
Show me.
But what hung behind my we started in a little garage, and I had moved into a 40,000 state of the art manufacturing facility, and I hung this behind my desk because I believed it heart and soul. And I just recently put it up this past week. I think you can see it. I don't know if I can get it close enough.
Deuteronomy.
Yeah, Deuteronomy 8:17 and 18. Well, I'll read it because it's kind of a glare.
Yeah.
But it says, beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth. And I remember as a guy in my 30s, I read that, and I had that actually custom made, and I hung it behind my desk in this, med device manufacturing company, because I believed it. I believed at the end of the day, and this probably is a good way to land the whole stress conversation, right? I am a firm believer, and I have been, and I've lived it, that no, all my efforts and hard work, and God uses means, and hard work and good choices and all that are the means. But if he's not in it, it's not going to be successful. At the end of the day, unless the Lord opens the doors and he gives you the power to get wealth and you forget him. And the temptation is to think that, oh, look what I've done.
Yep.
The power, look what I've built. And you start thinking that way, you're in a very dangerous place. So, anyway, Mike, that's a long answer, but it is meaningful to me.
It's a good answer.
Awesome.
Good answer.
Hey, let's wrap up real quick because we're right about at our time. Let's go around and again, honor George here. What's our takeaway from our discussion today? Joe, could you start us out?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of I've been trying to start another Catholic business exchange here locally, and I'm inspiring today to pursue that and the thoughts together with what we can do with this. Can I borrow your car? And how do we be disciples of each other? And I'm going to pass it to Mike.
So I wasn't planning on being on this thing today. Right. I was planning on fishing, but fishing wasn't great, even though it was perfect. And Eric had called me yesterday. Right. And so I was calling back Eric. He's like, are you going to be on the Klatsch? I'm like, no, because I hadn't planned on it. And then that was like the earworm song. It was like a Bon Jovi song. Right. I was like, well, I'm just driving. I'll just listen in. And it ended up being one of our best, I think.
Yeah.
And that's because of all of you, right? Where many are gathered, that kind of stuff. And I'm going to pass it to Jeff Deep Waters Parnell.
Don't know where that Deep Waters. That's pretty good. This was an awesome day. And I think my two takeaways, this is all way bigger than us individually.
Yeah.
We need to lean on, I'll just say we need to lean on the Lord. That's my perspective. And a quick story. I know we're close to time, but when I had a heart transplant almost 8 years ago, the day that I heard my heart had come in after 5 weeks, my wife tells me she's never seen me so calm in my life. And that wasn't me.
Yeah.
So Joe, it's all yours, brother.
Okay, we'll go back to David because I think I got mine. David?
Okay, yeah. So my takeaway again is just a reminder of being disciplined to find that activity or means in which I can step back and really do innovative thinking.
Yeah. Awesome. Teresa.
My takeaway for today is just the call is a good reminder of doing business and being around people who I want to be around with for the right reasons and the right values for innovation.
Yeah.
Not let everybody around me. So glad you are all here, and I really look forward to this call every week.
Who's
Yeah,
left?
absolutely. My takeaway, guys, is sorry.
No, pass it to Aaron.
Yeah, my takeaway, guys, is that I love hearing other people's ways of looking at it. David, you reminded me that there's two components of it: stress and innovation or discernment or whatever we want to call the thing we're calling. But it's not just about getting into the right mindset. You got to get the other stuff out of the way, right? And so that was a great takeaway for me. I was thinking about the innovation, but I wasn't thinking about the fact that our clients often are stuck in that stress, and we got to help them get out of that stress right away so that they can actually be innovative or discerning or whatever, again, whatever that thing is to get to the next level. Right. So, hey guys, great discussion. Have
Great day, everybody.
have an awesome week.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
This episode is brought to you by the Growth Drive Summit. Our theme this year is building a profitable advisory business. Join us in Charleston, South Carolina, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. Expand your network, learn new skills, and generally have a good time. This is a top-rated event. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you.